Thank you very much. It's sort of turbulent pleasure to be here because you're constantly drawn from poisoning our bodies to curing our diseases, and one has to endure too much emotion too skillfully and in too short a time. But I'm going to be the downer of the day, if I may. And the theme here is right now. I will suggest that with respect to boys, girls, sex, all that, we're wrong now. There's an Irish poet who wrote once, "To the blind, everything is sudden. To the blind, everything is sudden." If we did a movie of the industrial world, our industrial history, if it were a 2-hour movie, it would flash by that period. In the last 1 or 2 seconds, maybe the second cameraman credit. We don't matter in the evolutionary scheme of things. For the longest time, we did things right. We lived in a certain manner. It was cruel, as we heard, you eat or you get eaten. We had to pay attention to nature. The talk we just heard about maps is riveting because everybody has a map, their own map, and people in the Australian desert really don't have a supermarket at the corner, and they had better know where the next grub is. We did something well, so well as to be where we are now, and so well as to ignore what we were. I'd like to actually provide, I hope, a responsible and maybe even interesting rant about some of the ways in which we have failed to realize what was right then and why we are wrong now. We were told this is to be about boys, and indeed it is. I got interested in the whole issue of males when I was a graduate student teaching at University of British Columbia then, and I was suddenly aware, as many people were, of the immense symbolic, intellectual, and more important, poetic power of what we learned from primates. I was delighted to see that one of the attendees here has a company called InfoChimp. More power to InfoChimp, because the chimps actually are still doing things in the right way, though we're doing our best to disturb them. With the primate material, it became clear that there were sex roles, different ways that males behaved and females behaved in the chimps, in the orangs, in the spider monkey, all kinds of primates. And you know something? Not one of those primates read Cosmo or Playboy. They just lived. We developed a peculiar notion that somehow what we are is how we think of what we are. Now let me go to a more drastic difficulty, which is of our own university community. If you go to any major university in the world, you'll see, it's called different things, you'll see the faculty of natural science and social science. The heavy and clear, unthought-through implication is that social behavior is not natural. Nonsense. It is. You have a life cycle, all of you here. Your eyebrow hair is genetically controlled, and it's different from the hair on your arm. I seem to be following a group of no-hair people on the head, and that's controlled too, genetically. You can't believe the exquisite nature of this system. And so we're quite prepared and embrace, and rightly so, the idea of finding the genetics of cancer. Whoa, what about the genetics of cancer carriers? What about the genetics of people who don't have a disease? At the moment, let me recite a few data just to give you a picture of how a mistake by the zookeeper can affect the animals in the zoo. We have our own zoo. We're our own zookeepers. And we have a responsibility to treat ourselves with the kindness with which we treat other animals. I dare say that pets have better food supply than many humans do, many of their owners. And if you want to see how important how feeding animals is, just go to a supermarket, get a long ruler, and you'll see that the amount of shelf space for pet foods is about the same as the shelf space for biscuits, than which there is nothing bigger in the supermarket. Because we like to feed others. We're mammals. We like to take care of others. And as we heard from Robin, we're eager to take care of others, but sometimes those that are supposed to take care of us don't. Hence her crusade, and more power to her. But my point is that we don't understand our own nature, but the beginning of understanding animal nature has meant very simply that all zoos are now different than they were 50 years ago. The ideal zoo, from the zookeeper's point of view, is to have animals who reproduce. If they reproduce successfully, it means that the conditions of the zoo are appropriate for that species, and good zoos will go to great lengths to try to accomplish that. What about our zoo? I'll go on about that a bit in various forms, because it's important that we understand, are we good architects of our own zoo? Are we lousy architects? Have we created a map which involves intolerable activity in order to get to the corner or to the roundabout or to the lake? In this country, at my university, come back to males and females, at my university, first day of class, and this is not unique to Rutgers, it's very, very common at universities. Some of you may actually be able to provide personal witness. Kids come to school, first day, maybe the first time away from home, full of excitement, full of a sense of promise, full of a sense of their own accomplishment. They did all those tests, they wrote all those lying essays, and they got in. Here they are. What's the first activity? A seminar on rape. Okay? Now, the lawyers rub their hands, because if there's ever any rape, no parent can accuse the university of not having done its best. That's why they have it, I'm sure. Finally. But the fact is that the young boy goes to it and he immediately characterizes himself as a kind of potential predator. He doesn't quite get it. He only wishes maybe that he were, but he doesn't understand it. The females are characterized as potential victims. At Colby College in Maine, behind every bathroom door in the female loos or bathrooms is a set of instructions about what to do about rape. When women go to Brown University in Rhode Island, first thing they get is a whistle to use when they're raped or when they're in danger of raping. I'm not suggesting this is trivial by any means, and anyone who has been part of dealing with a rape victim will understand this is absolutely awful, graphic, and that woman's biological future has been produced by some male who didn't have the sense to know that there were other ways to have love. But the fact is that this is how we characterize these young men and these young women. What are some of the consequences? Well, any of you who are in the university business as I am will be aware that there is a quiet, increasingly noisy crisis about what the hell is wrong with the boys and the men. Universities now graduate roughly 60 to 63% females, 37 to 40% males. What? The vaunted patriarchy doesn't work? These gorgeous, lordly boys can't get through school? They can't even get through nursery school. 4 out of 5 children expelled from nursery school are boys. My question is, how the hell do you get expelled from nursery school? Not only do we expel them, but we coerce their behavior as boys because they're boys. 90% of the victims of Ritalin are boys. We are unique in this country in giving this medicine, powerful medicine, to people who are barely able to walk. In France, Ritalin is a very powerful medication. And a head of physiology at the University of Paris Medical School at a lunch one day told me that in all of France, there were 4,600 prescriptions given a year for Ritalin. I dare say you drive 5 miles down the road, whichever map you use, and you will go to a high school where the school nurse is giving 4,600 prescriptions every 2-3 years. It's a nightmare. It's a crime. It's a scandal. And why do the boys get this? Because they jump around. You know, boys, they're not girls. Because of the conspiracy against looking at nature rather than imposing our sense of nature on boys and girls, we have adopted full scale the feminist notion that all sex roles are created by the magazines you read and by something called culture. I had no idea 8-year-old boys were so cultured. How did they get this culture? Well, you know, they're boys. They move. You cannot get a group of primate males to sit still. Only once, actually. My friend Desmond Morris, I worked with him in London when I was starting in this business. He said that he had males and females in the zoo. The only time that males would be absolutely quiet and at peace, only a few of them, when they were painting. He had a famous chimp there called Congo. Congo liked to paint, and he was good at it. One day, in fact, Desmond had a call from the artist Miro saying he really wanted a Congo. Would Desmond exchange a Miro for a Congo? Yes, said Desmond. He still has it. But the point was that if you disturb the chimp males when they were painting, they get really irritated rather. Somebody mentioned earlier about males who cannot pay attention, according to their skillful teachers, principals, guidance counselors, school psychologists, and theorists, go home and spend 8 hours in front of the tube playing games. What's going on here? Why is this? Well, basically, we have, as I said, decided that, to use the term I used in the Decline of Males book, males suffer from male original sin. There's a special category of badness which males carry with them. And they have to work it off. They have to have sensitivity training, and you know the whole drill. Express your feelings. A friend of mine, a writer in this area, Christina Summers, had her son went to some summer camp, and one day there, the counselors had a brilliant idea, which was to send the kids out into the desert, and she gave them all papers and pencils so they could write about their feelings. The girls were all sitting there writing about their feelings. She came upon the boys. They'd taken all the papers and pencils, made a bonfire, and were doing something very different. Did you know you have some pyromaniacs in this audience? It's kind of dangerous. Well, let me sort of draw quickly some of the starker conclusions here. My suggestion is, in the Decline of Males, that males are not becoming able, because of the imposition of the culture on the rumor that they're only bad females, and they're not producing what the community needs. Astonishingly, in the industrial world, 40% of all babies are born to women who are not married. Now, Nothing wrong with that. A lot of those women have partners. A lot of those women have done this by choice. But my suspicion is a lot of those women are looking at the candidates and they're saying, no, I'll do it myself. Not only that, they're invoking a mammalian kinship system, which is the deal, and it's the deal in a lot of ethnic communities in this country. Daughter is 18, 20, working as a hairdresser or whatever. She and her mother have a deal. The deal is, okay, darling, you have a baby, I'll take care of it. Because Mr. Right is all wrong. And anyway, you wouldn't dare risk your money, your quiet, your residence on some guy that doesn't shape up. So my sense here is that in this crisis, which is becoming now a noticeable crisis, the males are the real carriers of the victimhood, but it's the women also, the females, who are complaining about the fact that they don't have reproductive reciprocity. And this is a bad zoo. This is not a good zoo. Now, to come right back to my earlier point about the difference between natural and social science, there are some places where people try to overcome this. Over here at U of T, in the psychology department, there's a very important group of people, basically chaired, I believe, by David Buss, a psychologist, trying to unite the natural and the social at a very high level of skill, responsibility, transparency, and imagination. And that's great. But more often than not, sex roles are seen as the result of patriarchy, as the result of conspiracy against females or conspiracy for females or whatever, but not listening to what's actually being told to the analysts by the animals themselves, namely the boys and girls. So, what do we do now? First of all, it seems to me time to have a complete abandonment and, in fact, a rejection from the intellectual marketplace of ideology about gender. Close down all those departments that are interested in stimulating feminism, womanhood, and so on, without recognizing the fact that this is actually injuring other individuals, other people. University of Toronto, I did a quick look at their catalog, has 40 courses in women's studies, 2 in men's studies, 1 about transgendered males and 1 about homosexual males. We just don't pay attention. And for that lack of paying attention, we're paying a price. And the price is being paid by your guy, your kid, your gal, your everybody. The fact is, we've got to get it right, and right now, and we've got to stop getting it wrong right now.
You're going to provoke a great deal of discussion at the after party. So I encourage you guys to be involved in this discussion. There's 7 questions I would love to ask you right now. You know, as a mother of 2 boys and a girl, when you and I had that phone conversation, we talked about this, I want to debate it from both sides, right? I want to be able to protect my boys and make sure their world is really strong, and I wanted to argue why they have those rape classes and why they have feminist. I went to an all-women's college, just so you all know. So I'm just so excited that you're here. Thank you for sharing your stuff. I do encourage you guys to, approach Lionel. You're here for the whole evening?
Yes.
And really, let's have this conversation start, not finish, with this talk. Thank you, Lionel.
Okay.